Okay, guys, I'm traveling today, so work with me. So this past week, my schedule was really like a revolving door of grief and actual celebration. I had two scheduled funerals and a wedding. So my emotions were, as you can imagine, they were everywhere. But standing in the space between both of those extremes, I realized that we have this very strange habit of reserving the most important questions for those who can no longer answer them. So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about questions like when it comes to those that have passed away, were they saved? Did they really know God? Were they a believer? And then something hit me during this process that most of the time we try to answer these questions based on what we could see from the outside. You see, we look for the receipts. Did they go to church? Did they talk the talk? Did they walk the walk? Did they live right? Did they live scripturally? Did they seem like a good person? And it made me pause and wonder, is that how God decides? I've realized I've been grading people based on my own observations, based on what I thought I knew and the outward evidence that I could collect from these individuals. But you see, God sees the one thing that we can't see. And that realization led me to a scripture that challenged everything that I thought I understood about judgment and grace. So let's lean in. So our focus scripture today is going to be 1 Samuel 16:7. And the scripture says, man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. I had to sit with that. And what I discovered next, honestly, it surprised me. You see, if God is looking at the heart, then faith must be deeper than behavior. You see, religion often trains us to evaluate people based on what we see outwardly. But God evaluates us inwardly. See, we look at the different patterns, but God, on the other hand, looks at our belief. We look at people's behavior, but God looks at our heart. And that started to change how I see faith completely. See, it made me realize something. It made me realize that religion tends to focus on behavior first, but God focuses on our belief first. See, religion says, act right so that you can belong. But what I kept seeing Jesus show us was believe and you will belong. And then transformation starts after belief. Because as we see in multiple religions, that religion tries to modify our behavior, but God looks to transform our hearts. And when our heart changes, then our behavior typically follows. It doesn't follow perfectly, it doesn't follow instantly, but genuinely. And this is where Romans 10:10 began to make a little bit more sense to me. You see, for with the heart man believes unto righteousness, right? And with the mouth, confession is made unto salvation. And something simple stood out in that verse. And what stood out to me was heart first, confession second, belief first, expression second. See, there's inner faith and then there's outer faith. And that helped me to understand something very important. You see, you can pressure behavior, but you cannot pressure real belief. Because when real belief happens, change takes place. And so, like the scripture Ezekiel 36:26 connected this for me. It says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And so how it connected it for me was that God didn't say, I'll just give you better rules. He said, I'll give you a new heart. See, God's solution was never just better behavior. It was a new heart, because rules can change, and it changes our actions temporarily. And behavior management, well, that's not God's end goal. Transformation is God's end goal. So when we focus on religion, we looked at religion manages sin and tries to control our behavior. But on the other hand, God transforms our identity. Religion tries to fix what people sees, but God says, let me change what they can't see. And this shows us how Paul's writing connects everything to the pattern that God has. When we talk about justification, it means that we're saved by faith. And sanctification means that we're changed by faith. But glorification means that God has completed us through faith. And that's when he grows us. And then that's when he finishes us. Which means that God never expected instant perfection. Growth was always supposed to be a process. So God's work is in developing people. So now when I hear, were they saved? I think a little bit differently. Because now I'm not answering from the moments in which I saw. I'm answering and looking like how God saw. God saw our flaws, but God also saw our faith. We saw the mistakes, but God sees our belief. You see, we saw the struggles, but God saw the surrender. And honestly, that should really humble us and remind us that we were never qualified to be a final evaluator of someone's faith. If we were the thief on the cross next to Jesus, we wouldn't be allowed to enter into paradise, because people judged him based on what he saw. But God saw his full story. So maybe the real question isn't just about others. Maybe it's actually about us. Are we building a faith based on appearance, or a faith rooted in real belief? Because religion trains us to perform, but God transforms us. Religious focuses on our behavior, but God focuses on our heart. And when God changes our heart, our life eventually tells the story. You see, this is Faith and Focus. And I'm just here sharing what God has been showing me through my experiences. So I want you to remember that religion looks at behavior, but God looks at your heart. So focus on your heart. Because when your heart belongs to God, transformation always follows. Be blessed.